Hey guys, Alex Khan here, and I'm gonna do a spoiler-free review on this old TV show called Revolution, which is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi show consisting of two seasons of 42 episodes in its entirety. So, I honestly started watching Revolution just because after I finished Jericho, which was a great post-apocalyptic show, I was looking for something else to fill the void that Jericho left after I finished that TV show. So I found the show called Revolution, and it's an NBC show starring Billy Burke, Elizabeth Mitchell, Giancarlo Esposito, Tracy Sparaticos, and many other pretty well-known, recognized TV actors. For me, the most recognized actor would be Billy Burke, who was the dad from Twilight. Very, very cool, underrated actor. I think this guy deserves more starring roles. But anyways, again, I'm going to do spoiler free, and I want to talk about my thoughts on this TV series. So I'm going to say right off the bat that overall I did like this show. Before I get into the positives, I want to get into the negatives first, and then I'll go into the positives. So I think my biggest negative is, even though the show was only 42 episodes long, 2 seasons, the show felt really, really long. It felt like it dragged. Like, honestly, at times, it felt like a chore to get up and watch this show. So, the first season was 20 episodes long, each episode being about 43 minutes long. Season 2 was about 22 episodes long, about 43 minutes long each. But every time I went to turn on play, I was kind of dreading it. I was like, man, I'm just gonna, work my way through to each episode. Each episode took me like 2 or 3 sittings to finish. So you might be wondering why I liked the show if I felt like it was a chore. Well, later on, I'm going to tell you some positives about that. But that's one negative. It felt like it dragged a little bit too much. Second problem is, this is also a positive too. It's not very realistic. It's not realistic. It's not as realistic as Jericho. But I think that's also going to work in its favor when I mention the positives too. Another big negative is there's this really lame subplot, and I'm not going to tell you who it involves. If I tell you that, that's going to be a spoiler, but it's a really lame subplot, and after watching both seasons, it honestly led to nowhere. Unfortunately, the TV show did get canceled by NBC. So at the end of season 2, it does tell you what's gonna happen, and it's connected to that subplot. But because the show got canceled, it never picked up. And I'm kind of glad it didn't pick up, because I'd hate to watch a whole season of this subplot getting fleshed out even more. It was so bad. Another nitpick. You know how every show has at least one annoying character? This show, it definitely had one very, very, very annoying character, and then at times, there were 2 or 3 other characters who were pretty annoying, at least half the time. But there was one character who I was really, really annoyed by. I kept hoping that they would kill that character off, but yeah. Let's see, another negative about this show. Well, the show did get canceled. You can't really fault the show for that, but then again, you can, because if the show was good enough, it wouldn't have gotten canceled. But then again, that's kind of unfair, because a lot of good shows did get canceled unfairly. So I think those are all the negatives. Now I want to launch into my positives about this show without giving away spoilers. So the positives, remember how I said this show was unrealistic? That also works in the show's favor. I love some of the over-the-top, unrealistic situations. For example, when the show starts, you have Billy Burke, the Twilight dad. He is hacking down legions of bad guys with his sword, almost single-handedly. So connected to that, the action sequences are pretty over the top, and they're really fun to watch, even though a lot of it's very improbable. It's just really fun to watch, especially the Twilight dad. I love how he just takes his sword and starts hacking everyone to death. He's like, bam, bam, bam. It's so fun. It's so fun to watch. Kind of reminds me of those old pirate movies where this guy has a sword and he's like swashbuckling everybody. Another positive. Remember how I mentioned all those great actors? Giancarlo Esposito, Billy Burke, the guy who plays Monroe. He's actually an Australian actor who flattens his accent to sound American. This cast is very like a lot of these characters are really interesting to learn about, and some of these characters actually have a character development arc, which is pretty fun to see them start from season one, advance through each episode all the way to season two. Some of these characters have some pretty good depth to them. Some of them don't, like that really annoying character who just never changes. He's just annoying throughout the entire season, through the entire series. So the really interesting characters. A lot of the character relationship dynamics also change a lot. You know how politics and alliances, they tend to shift throughout history. That's how the show played out too. Not every character stayed friends with every character. A lot of them became enemies. A lot of enemies became friends. Some characters that you were hating, you ended up liking them later on. So it had that really cool dynamic. You know, it wasn't a one-dimensional thing to see. Another positive, well, it's set in the post-apocalyptic period, which I guess if you're a big fan of like the Fallout series, or if you're a fan of the Jericho TV show, you know, you want to see more shows set in post-apocalyptic America. And this show does deliver that. I mean, it might be a little unrealistic, but it's actually a whole lot of fun to watch. Another positive, this is also connected to a negative that I mentioned earlier. Remember how I said each episode tended to drag? Here's the thing about that. Even though some of these episodes dragged, I was always also excited. I was morbidly excited to watch the next episode and see what happens next. I wanted to see, you know, these characters grow. I wanted to see their relationships change. I was just excited to see what would happen, because the show does throw you some curveballs, and it's exciting to see it when it's done right. So that's also a positive. So yeah, overall, I think this is a great show. It's a shame it got canceled. Again, only 2 seasons long, and then now this brings us to the inevitable comparisons with the other post-apocalyptic show, Jericho. Let's do some comparisons here. So, Jericho is a lot more realistic. Jericho is a lot more gritty. Honestly, I pretty much liked all the characters that I was supposed to like in Jericho. I think Jericho was such a better, well-made show. Even though that show got canceled too, I think that one left on a better note. But that said, you know, I still liked Revolution. Revolution stood on its own 2 feet as well, because it was unrealistic. The over-the-top factor did feature pretty well into its storytelling. And I did like the action sequences, the really over-the-top action sequences in Revolution. So I would say overall, Jericho is a better show, but Revolution is a fun show. Both shows had really interesting characters that you could cheer for, and it was really exciting to watch both unfold. But you know, honestly, I would say Jericho is it's definitely a superior show than Revolution. But I still liked Revolution quite a bit. Now, Revolution doesn't end on its own terms. It ends on a cliffhanger, as I said, but apparently they finished the story in comic book form, like digitally online. So I'm gonna try to find that digital comic online, read it so I can get my fix on the storyline, see how it ends. I'm not too excited though, because I know the way that season 2 ended, it was gonna complete that really lame subplot story that I didn't really like. I found it very annoying, and it didn't really fit into the story of Revolution. So yeah, overall, I would recommend Revolution. It is a chore to watch. Yeah, this show came out between 2012 2014. I finished season 1 last year, maybe 2 years ago, and I just now got around to watching season 2. It took me a few weeks to finish season 2. I was really dragging my feet through it. But when I finally did get finished with it, I was pretty happy with it. So post your thoughts. If you've seen this show, what did you think of the show? Did you like the show better than Jericho? What are some other post-apocalyptic shows that you would recommend for someone who likes Jericho and Revolution? Who are your favorite characters? All that good jazz. Put all your comments in the comment section so I can read it. The show is kind of obscure, and it would be nice to connect with other fans of the show who also want to connect with other fans of the show.